So there's a difference between when you first hear the truth and when the truth takes root in you, and after a certain amount of time goes by, you know the truth. You come to know the truth, right? Like you can hear like a sermon that the entire message is you're favored, and it could be, wow, that's so good. And it is good. But I believe like so many of us kind of like try to take that into the week or whatever. So say you get like hyped up when you hear something and you say that is good. Okay, great. I think that happens initially, and I don't believe that it's just hype. I believe that the Holy Spirit is actually beginning to shift things and do a new thing in you, right? Take you into a new direction, give you a deeper understanding of who you are. But a lot of us, because of the way that we have like grown up, have thought that we need to be our own hype men, like when the storm comes, or hype woman. So like you're like, oh, I'm favored, I'm highly favored, I'm blessed, and it becomes this mantra that you tell yourself. But that's too shallow for you, right? Like the process of like actually coming to know that you were favored, coming to know that you were highly favored, that you were blessed, requires you actually going through a phase in a process of everything in your life is saying the exact opposite of that. And you feel the exact opposite. And it doesn't require you to speak. I think that people speak and it's just a manifestation of doubt. When the reality is you will come to know that like to be favored, a lot of the time, I feel like, I can only really speak from personal experience, first feels like you are handicapped, like you are special, but not gold star. You are special, like you have special needs, right? You're so acutely aware of your weaknesses because it takes experience to like produce wisdom, right? To produce a harvest of peace, to produce these things. And we can hear it from like a pastor or whatever, and it hypes us up in the moment. I don't really like messages like this because I wish that they would teach like how things like are received and when they're given, and how like a seed has to die before it can like live, right? Something has to go through a death, burial, and resurrection, right? Death and burial before it's resurrected. And the key component of that is you are not going to resurrect it. And I feel that we can be in these storms, and we're almost like taught to like when we're in these storms that come to, and by design, uncover unbelief, right? Like the storm is already working things out for your good. It's like on your side in a sense, but we have this thing where we feel like we have to rebuke the storm and say, no, I'm favored, I'm this, you're not going to take me out. But we're not doing it from a place of grace. We're doing it from a place of self-effort. And it's really just a manifestation of doubt. When the reality is like when you first hear something, you have to go through a process of not even believing it, because you will come to believe, meaning God's beginning to do a new work in you. And he's like, you're not here yet. I don't expect you to be here yet. I'm doing a new thing. Before it springs into being, I announce it to you, as in you are favored, you are highly favored. And then you start to find that like shortly after being hyped up at church or whatever that sermon you heard, your life is saying everything the opposite of that. And it's like, good. Now you're in the process of coming to know. And being in the process of coming to know things, especially if you were favored, you will realize how weak you really are. But that you've had this incorrect view of what weak is. You've had this shame attached to weakness that then gets uncovered in the storm, right? Because we've had this backwards mentality. So when we hear it, we're favored, right? We hear something like hyping up at church that tickles our ears for a moment, and we feel like we have to like reinforce that. We have a shallow perception of what that is. We have no idea what that really means to be favored. We have no idea what that means. But we try to like reaffirm it to ourselves, but that's just not doing very much. Because if you have to do that once, you have to keep doing it forever, and that's not how things work. You will come to know that you were favored. And when you do, it won't be a bumper sticker. It won't be something that you have to tell people. It won't be anything showy, right? the showy part may be there, but it won't be you needing to reaffirm that, because that had to die for you to truly know. And for you to know is basically your hands are tied behind your back. You're pressed on all sides, and you're put in this position where you are in need to see like how much he loves you and he's caring for you, because it doesn't make sense at first. You're like, if I'm so favored, then why am I going through all of this? Well, you're being purged of like what worldly riches are compared to kingdom riches. You see the truth that this place, this world is dry, and it really doesn't have anything to offer. But this comes with this grief and this great sorrow. So the beginning of knowing a deeper truth about yourself and God like comes with this death, this burial, and then knowing that he's the only one that can resurrect it. So when he does, you're like, I am favored, but I don't have to tell myself this. It is not a bumper sticker. It is not this surface level thing. It is not this way to hype anyone up, right? He just began to do a new thing whenever it tickled my ears back then, right? He started to plan it. But then he had to take it through a whole process, and my life looked the complete opposite. So I don't know. I have a problem with messages like this, because I mean, I know people are going to just learn from the Holy Spirit anyway, but it's just like all that self-effort and trying to like hype yourself up whenever you're not feeling favored as a way of like producing your own faith, to me is just like ridiculous. It's just like the fruit that you produce, and it's just like, it's not good. It's not good enough. It just relies on you to keep producing it. I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate self-affirmations in that way, where it comes from self-effort. Because I love people, I guess. I care about people, and I don't want them to be in bondage to having to remind themselves that they're favored whenever he's like, no, I'm not. You can let go of this. You can let go of this whole thing and let it die. And then when you see that it comes back, you'll know who resurrected it.